Let's do one that would be a basketball player. Let's see how that would go. So let's grab this and then maybe move it over. See if I'm able to do that. So basketball player. Now we've done a couple of figures that were thinner in build and kind of more anemic in their shape and shape design. This one will do somewhat similar, but just similar in that it might be thinner, but I see a lot more rounds. By the way, it's this one, so we're looking there. Has more of an oval look to the face shape. So there's my tilt in my modified shape. My neck has more of a gesture this way. So C and S, a little bit of a stretch on this side. Shoulder tilt more this way, slightly higher on the left. Once I get that tilt, then where are my 3 points? Pit of the neck, shoulder, shoulder. That's the perspective wrapping line. Here's the long stretch of the torso with a pinch and a stretch. And then I'm gonna thin this. What do I take away from looking at, so I've done 4 so far, the combined shape and design differences from each figure. I feel like you can start to put some of these into your research for form language. Different body types maybe solicit a different feeling. How are those feelings manifested? Different shape combinations. So if you're really kind of organized and attentive as to the way that you're studying and how, you can start to learn a lot about how shape impacts us, how we might start to read and develop ideas about a body prior to having interaction with someone. So there's my kind of flow through. Let's double check that gesture line. If I go from the base of the ear through the center line of the torso into the weight bearing leg, I think we get like a nice long S curve here that I can hang my information on. This is about as close as I would get to doing something that's kind of Riley-like. Otherwise, I get lost in a lot of the reasoning for some of the abstraction. Sometimes it could feel a little bit too much for me, like the not at all a slight against anybody that does it. I just don't understand it quite as well. So here's my pelvis, knee. This would be the B shape, or maybe slight S, right? So there's a bit of a turn here. That knee looks like it's slightly pronated in. So maybe that would be a S curve to the foot. Maybe this could push in even more, but powerful shape for that torso. Probably could drop the eye line on the head too. Kind of tilted that head back a little bit much. Here's a nice, let's do the other leg. So this is passive, definite S curve on this shape. Calf. And it's not that these aren't intended again to be contour lines. I'm just trying to think about the shape, the orientation, how that mannequin gets laid down, and then leaving myself a lot of wiggle room to start to think about the specifics of a person and their look, the design of a shape and its placement prior to investing anything more, like detail, lighting, all that. This side could be an S curve for the arm, so it drops, and then maybe out that way, and then same thing here. Another fun thing you could try to do is maybe create a form language assessment for each body type. Like this is, longer rectangles plus a lot of rhythm. And that gives me a certain quality of maybe this is the story of this body type just based on the abstract elements is it's graceful, but there's also a lot of power in it. And that seems to make sense for the body type of a basketball player and the type of athleticism that sport requires. This one feels more like a stubborn power, and that seems appropriate to a wrestler. And that would be the result of that top heavy shape, maybe also combined with a sense of grace or rhythm, maybe less so. And then you could start to assign percentages to that, like how much of each. It's like cooking. Maybe one more and then we could try something different. Let's try, so what have we done? We've done basketball, wrestler, and then two body types that are a bit more slight. Let's try the weightlifter, okay? So weightlifter here is a body type with a little bit more heft to it, maybe more subcutaneous fat in this one. So our head shape, to start out, that part is much more rounded, even more so than the basketball player. Here's the T in that symmetry line. Neck also feels more curved to me than the others. There's a curvature to that neck. Here's the tilt. So now I'm thinking about the whole of that body, torso. Here's the center and the sides. And then maybe this shape is, let's modify it right out of the gate. Maybe it's more, maybe the shape is more of the teardrop to the whole of the body. Maybe that's what I'm seeing in each part so far, is that there's a progressive broadening to each shape. thin to thick. And as I move into the torso, it's the same. This gets broader. So that's going through the torso into the pelvis. Maybe that comes out. Here's the perspective. Weights on this side. So that here's my B. Try to use that center line as a way to move through that. That straight center for the B's right off to the knee there. You could add in a bunch of other things too from your experience drawing gesture, like where is the center of gravity? How is that positioned? A lot of that I'm just leaving out as kind of old mechanics that are kind of left over from that old approach, but I'm still thinking them, still trying to have them all come to bear without needing to use them so literally. So there's that, and then, so again, I'm attentive to the shapes. So these are all bottom heavy, and then this kind of reverses. So now it's kind of tapering down my shape language here. So you can see I could still do the B and the S is the point, but I'm broadening the mass or trying to connect with a shape that more immediately resembles the body. And maybe anatomy wouldn't help really too much here at all, just because you're not really with direct access to it. Summarizing these, or again, is trying to keep it a little bit clearer, simpler, just so I don't have to commit to contour right out the gates. Then here's my arms. So definitely powerful body, but in a different sense. Doesn't seem to have the aggressive air that the wrestler does, or the same type of grace as the basketball player, but definitely a different type of, like a passive power, kind of what this body looks like to me. So hand would come around there, and then this way. And this feels a little different, of course, because there's a little bit more, as I mentioned earlier, body fat on this type of athlete, right? So I'd be dealing with more form on top of the structure. So not just the structural fat, but subcutaneous fat in different ways that might allow for more of a powerful heft or lift for a bodybuilder. I mean, a weightlifter. Bodybuilder would be different, right? So there's a few examples, right? Hopefully that connects with you in terms of how I'm using this mannequin to arrive at a more kind of convincing and direct gestural lay-in for a body or body type. And then as we've moved through, I'm trying to attach some significance just in the ways of having a bit of a, I don't know, like a heightened sensitivity to the way that shape plays a part in all of this. Like how you're modifying each of these body parts in their position to match, to orient around the language of geometry and abstraction as a way to connect in with history, or genre, or style, or in the case of the analysis of our athletes over here, something that might start to give you a better sense of the storytelling behind each body and how it looks. Okay, I think I'll stop there.
Want to learn from Michael? Check out his Introduction to Figure Construction and Head Construction courses on Proko.com. Both courses have hours of demonstrations, lectures, and student critiques. If you're interested, click on the links in the description. Thanks.